Hello, and welcome to Unsportsmanlike Conduct, where we bring you all things AU athletics. I'm Logan Zavala. Today on the show, we will have Stephen Franklin, followed by Ryan Craig and Kevin Berger. First, let's talk with Stephen. Stephen, this week you brought to the attention Jeff Turk to AU. Could you explain a little more about him?
Yeah, Jeff Turk, he's a professional race car driver from, our hometown, or our home state in Illinois, and he's licensed, and basically he bought a Dodge Challenger drag pack, which is like a super factory car that's produced by Dodge, and he ended up going down to Florida to race in the NMCA Holly EFI event, and he ended up winning the race and winning $10,000 out of it.
Can you explain to the people a little more about stock car racing?
Yeah,
what it all is?
So stock car racing is basically like, so you have your three major American brands. You got Ford, Chevy, and Dodge, and basically they all take like the Mustang, Camaro, Challenger, and then they practically put like these very super modified motors, transmissions, suspensions, the whole 10 yards into them, and like the weight is reduced by a lot. Like there's certain weight classes. So I know like one weight class is 3,300 pounds, the other one's 3,500 pounds, and they all make certain types of engines for each class. So like generally, like if you're in the 3,500 pound class range, then Ford offers like a 5.8 liter supercharged motor. Chevy's like a 427 cubic inch, and then Dodge also offers, I want to say, a 427 too. So I mean they're putting out pretty big displacement on those.
Okay, and what do people typically do with these cars once they have them?
Yeah, so I mean, like these are like special race cars, like straight from the factory. So, I mean, what these people do is like they'll find like racing events like around the country, or they'll go to like NHRA or NMCA or like any like racing like organization, and they'll pretty much take them there and they'll compete, whether it's for brand loyalty, sponsorship. I mean, Holly, like I said, Holly ran this event that Jeff Turk just won, and like they offered the special thing, like if you're running Holly's electronic fuel injection through the car, then they'll offer you like a $10,000 bonus if you win. So that's how like Jeff Turk was able to, show up, ball out, and take his 10 grand home.
Okay, and for anybody wanting to just buy these cars, are they street legal?
No, they're not street legal. You can't put them on the street for a whole bunch of reasons. They're solely built for the racetrack. Like the Department of Transportation is there's just a whole bunch of rules and stipulations. Like it all starts like with the tires, the transmission, the suspension. Like I know like the NMCA like ruling is like for a transmission you can't have anything that's over 3 gears. So like obviously like if you're gonna put that on the street, you're gonna tear up the road when when you have all that power being transferred to your wheels and everything else. And I mean, it's really unsafe to be driving these cars in the street, because if you have 1,500 horsepower in a car that weighs 3,300 pounds, I mean, chances are you're not going to be able to drive it very safely. Right. You're going to endanger everybody else around you and, everything else.
And do you know if there are any, precautions or laws to people that they could get in trouble if they have these cars on the street? Or is it just common
you will get
knowledge?
your car impounded. You will, I mean, that's a very big investment right there. So, I mean, if you even try and put it on the street, the cops catch you once, you probably never see that car again. It's not worth it.
And you mentioned like the big investment that people have to make. Are these cars worth the investment? Because from my understanding, they could be anywhere from 100 grand up.
Oh, absolutely. So, I would say depending on your goals as like a race car driver, it's worth the investment. Like Jeff Turk, he went and won a $10,000 race, and like it's not even just about one race that he won 10 grand at. There's races all over the country. I know like California always holds like very big events, like where the payout's as big as $50,000 sometimes. So I mean, Jeff Turk, if that's his profession, he's NHRA licensed, NMCA licensed, then people like him are going to go around state to state, and they're going to compete for top dollar all the time. So I mean, if you walk away with 10 grand, next race you walk away with 15 grand, and next race 20 grand, etc. Eventually you're going to get back to the point of where you invested into the car, and then after that you're just going to start making more money.
And do you ever see yourself investing into a car like this, or that's not something that interests you?
I mean, I'm definitely going to be into drag racing. I don't think I'll ever be at that level, though. I mean, $110,000 in a car like that, it's a lot of money. And I mean, just from doing things like in my own way, I could go buy a car from the junkyard, a motor from the junkyard, transmission from the junkyard, completely rebuild everything from the ground up, and have something as capable, if not more capable, and at the same time have it be street legal too. Because there's a whole bunch of ways I could adjust the vehicle to where I could meet the standards on the street and meet the standards at the track.
And then at the beginning you mentioned the 3 major brands that there are. Which of these brands do you believe is the best?
For drag race, I'm gonna have to go with the Ford motors, and I know Jeff Turk just beat the record. He ran 7s with the Mopar, but a lot of that had to do with the tuning and him swapping the heads and everything else. Because I mean, like, he turned up the boost, and when you turn up the boost, and I mean, at that point, it's really not even like a factory car because you're altering it. But I mean, straight from the factory, I'd have to go with the Ford Cobra Jets just because, they got the 5-liter and the 5.8 liter, and everything's so interchangeable and everything's so custom. Like I know, like, their intake systems and stuff, like, you could literally buy a Mustang off of the lot right now and you could swap those parts interchangeably. Okay. So that's why, like, I mean, Chevy, you could do the same thing with Chevy, but that's really more for, like, the 427 cubic inch big block that they're offering. And that's, I mean, at that point, like, if you're getting that big in displacement, it's going to be way too expensive and, swapping the parts interchangeably. So I would definitely have to say Ford's the best.
And contrary to that, what do you believe is the worst brand to use out of the 3?
At the same time, as I said, Chevy's interchangeable. I just think that the Copo Camaro, the 350, I just think it's a weak motor. It's a weak, I mean, the supercharging system obviously makes up for it, but it's like Chevy, you're still using a motor from, like, the 1980s. Like, when are you going to move past 350? Right. You know what I mean? I get it. I get the nostalgia that comes with it, but at the same time, it's just the motor's old and it's well overdue for a new one. So I would probably have to say that.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, Stephen. To read Stephen's article on Turk, head over to the sports section online at auspartanmedia.com. We will be back with all things March Madness after this video produced by Jalen Prince.
Marines go away winning 61-47.
Rahman at midcourt, extra pass. And it goes for the win! The three-pointer by Jordan Poole!
Game 69-57. The maize and blue is all set for a Monday night appearance. The court with Archie Diacono. 3 seconds at midcourt.
Jenkins
gives it to Jenkins for the championship. The national champion.
Welcome back. I'm now here with Kevin Berger and Ryan Craig. All right, guys, obviously March Madness just ended on Monday. Villanova were the champs. But before we get down to the Final Four and championship specifically, what were your guys' thoughts on the tournament as a whole and, like, any moments that stuck out to you, one of you?
All the upsets, the shocking upsets. I think this entire tournament, like, I mean, I think the first, set of games, everybody's bracket was shaken up. So
right.
That's what I really took off of the entire tournament, the upsets. What do you think?
Yeah, Brian said it best. The 16th seed being the 1 seed, Arizona getting knocked out in the first round, Michigan State losing early. Yeah, it was an it was a really upset-heavy tournament, and we haven't had that in a couple of years. We haven't had a lot of upsets in a couple of years, so it was fun to watch.
Yeah, you had to bring up Michigan State. Thanks.
Yeah, well, sorry.
And then after all the upsets cleared and then the tournament started to dwindle down, it gets down to the Final Four. What are your thoughts on the Final Four? And were those the teams you anticipated on?
No, I didn't expect Sister Jean to be in it, but Kevin did say that they were going to go farther in the bracket. So I will give him that. He's got the floor now for that.
So, Logan, on our show that Ryan and I had, I did say that there was a way they could get there. Didn't think it was going to happen. They kind of lucked out not having to play Kentucky,
right.
I feel like. But they got there. Michigan was a very interesting team that got hot at the right time towards the end of the season. I mean, they dominated the Big Ten tournament. They got to the national championship, as we all know. Kansas has been there how many times, so I guess it really wasn't that much of a surprise that they got there either. Villanova was the team this year that just was leaps and bounds better than everybody else, and I feel like in the last couple of years we hadn't had that, so it wasn't really that surprising that they ended up winning the national championship.
Yeah, they they took advantage of all the games that they had. I mean, I told Kevin in our podcast, the entire bracket, like, it was just Villanova's, you know, it was their year, you know, so we saw that with all their 20-point wins, I think, so.
You can't blame them for playing the card they were dealt.
Right,
They were given opponents that they should beat, and they beat them, and then they got to Michigan, and Michigan for the first couple of minutes was doing okay, and then after that it didn't look like they belonged on the same court as Villanova. But, I mean, who else, put anyone else on the other side of the bracket against Villanova, and it probably would have been the same result.
And for the national championship game, Villanova, obviously, like you said, were the team to beat, but Michigan getting there, do you feel like Michigan deserved to be in the national championship, or do you just think they were blessed with all of the upsets that went down in their region?
That Michigan being a 3rd seed, me and Kevin did talk about that. We thought that they were overrated, this entire bracket. But they upset, you know, they shocked me in the way that they got to the, you know, to the final game, and getting past Loyola, which hurt. But they you know, they earned their spot. You know, they go through the same, you know, set that every single other team goes through. So, you know, they deserve to be in there.
I'm never going to say that someone gets to the national championship by accident, because you don't get to the national championship by accident. But up until the national title, Michigan had not played anybody higher than a 6th seed the entire tournament. They barely beat Montana, almost lost to Houston. Then out of nowhere, they beat Texas A&M by like 25 points. But then Loyola, what is it? Mo Wagner, I believe, is the big guy on Michigan.
Yeah,
Mo Wagner
Mo
kept
Wagner,
them in the. Mo Wagner kept it a game in the first half against Michigan. If they didn't have Mo Wagner in Michigan, Michigan would have got run off the court. So, and then they ran into Villanova, and Villanova did what was expected.
Justifiably so. Justifiably so. We saw that coming. Even with Loyola being, you know, the hometown team, we saw that kind of coming.
Yeah.
So it's just,
and you have to feel if Loyola would have made it, it probably wouldn't have been
right.
for them.
But that Cinderella
It seemed
story,
like,
you know, it makes you feel good. You know?
Right. But and then how that played out with Villanova winning. Do you feel like they are the favorites for next year? I know they are losing some key players, but do you feel that they have a chance to?
Do you want to go first, or should I go first?
You know, Kevin can go first. I'll hand it off to him.
Logan, it's funny that you say that, because everyone thinks they are all 5 stars that Villanova has are eligible to play next year. Now, will they all? Probably not.
Yeah, I'd like
but
to say no.
if they all stayed, wouldn't that be something if they all stayed? Because then
Money,
you would have
money talks. So.
Exact. True. But they should at least be in the conversation for next year. I know they already have. I believe it's Duke is already rated as the number 1 team for next year.
I believe they have the top 3.
Yeah, they have the top 3. They have the top recruiting class coming in. Yeah. But I mean, we saw what a really good coach can do with kids that buy in, and that's exactly what Jay Wright is with his guys at Villanova. Right. So I'd say they should at least be in the conversation.
I would have to say Villanova will be in the conversation. They always are. You know, Duke, obviously, they're another big team. I would like to see what Virginia will do after being upsetted this last year to a 16 seed. But I'm a big Michigan State Spartan fan, so I'm going to be rooting for them to be the top seed to go all the way. You know, so that's my take.
All right, thanks for joining us today, guys. That's all the time we have here today on Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Join us next time and be great today, Spartans. If you would like to show your love for our show, or have suggestions for us, or would like to be on the show, find us on Twitter at AU Spartan Media. And a big thanks to our guests, Stephen Franklin, Kevin Berger, and Ryan Craig for being on the show today. I'm your host, Logan Zavala. Until next time.